The invitation arrived on a Monday. Cream paper, gold lettering, thick envelope that felt expensive between my fingers. It was addressed to my parents. Inside was a wedding invitation for my younger cousin, Emily. Destination wedding. Italian villa. Full weekend celebration. All expenses covered by the family. I smiled when I saw it. Emily had always dreamed of something big and romantic. I was genuinely happy for her. Then I noticed something strange. My name was not anywhere on the envelope. Not on the guest list card. Not on the RSVP slip. Not even scribbled as an afterthought. I thought it was a mistake. I called my mother. She hesitated before answering, the way she always did when she already knew the truth. "Oh, sweetheart," she said gently. "We thought it would be awkward for you." Awkward. That word followed me my entire life. I was awkward when I chose design school instead of law. Awkward when I started my own small wedding planning business instead of working for my uncle's company. Awkward when I delayed marriage because I wanted independence first. But I was never awkward when they needed my help. I designed invitations for free. I planned engagement parties. I coordinated floral budgets and seating charts and emergency timelines. I just was not important enough to be invited. I laughed it off at first. Then more invitations arrived. My cousin Rachel, my childhood neighbor turned family friend, even my ex-boyfriend's sister. Lavish weddings, destination trips, family reunions disguised as celebrations. And every time my parents went, every time they posted photos, every time someone asked in the comments why I was not there, and every time my mother replied with the same line, "She is very busy with work." That was the first lie. The second lie came months later. I was sitting in my tiny office, reviewing vendor contracts, when my aunt called me. She sounded excited. "We have wonderful news," she said. "We finalized the inheritance arrangements." My grandfather had passed away the previous year. He owned 3 properties and a significant trust. I had always assumed everything would be divided evenly between the grandchildren. "We transferred your share to Emily," my aunt said casually, "since you're not very family-oriented and she is starting a marriage." I stopped breathing. Transferred. Without asking. Without telling me. Without my consent. I drove to my parents' house that night. They did not deny it. They said it was practical. They said Emily needed stability. They said I would understand one day. Then my mother said the sentence that finally broke something inside me. "Honestly, we did not think you would ever settle down anyway." That was the moment I realized something. This was not about weddings. This was about erasing me. So I left. No fight. No screaming. No dramatic goodbye. I closed my small business, sold my car, and moved to another city where no one knew my last name. I worked for an elite wedding design firm under a different surname. And I learned everything. How guest lists reveal power structures. How seating charts show alliances. How money leaves fingerprints everywhere. 5 years passed. My parents stopped calling. Emily became the golden wife of the family. And I became something else entirely. The woman who would design the most important wedding my family would ever attend. Their own. Starting over felt like stepping into someone else's life. In the new city, I rented a small apartment above a bakery that woke me every morning with the smell of sugar and burnt coffee. I changed my last name on my resume. Not legally. Just enough to make sure no one could connect me to my family. I took a junior position at one of the most prestigious wedding design firms in the state. They did not know I had already planned more weddings than half their staff. They only saw a quiet woman with a strong portfolio and no famous references. That was perfect. I worked harder than anyone. I learned how luxury weddings really worked, how budgets were hidden inside decor allowances, how families used ceremonies to display status, alliances, and unspoken hierarchies, how seating charts were negotiated like political treaties. Within a year, I was promoted. Within 2, I was managing celebrity clients. Within 3, my designs were being featured in bridal magazines. I never posted about my family. I never mentioned my past. I never corrected anyone when they assumed I had no relatives. It was easier that way. Then one afternoon, my assistant walked into my office holding a new client file. "Big one," she said. "Very high-profile family. They specifically requested you." I opened the folder and felt the room tilt. It was my sister's name. My younger sister, Lily. She was getting married to a tech investor with a public reputation and a private fortune. The wedding was going to be enormous. Destination ceremony, international guests, 3 days of events, unlimited budget. And the lead designer request form had a handwritten note. "We were told you are the best in the industry. This wedding must be perfect." They had no idea who I was. My last name was different now. My profile photo was styled, professional, unrecognizable from the girl they had erased. For a full minute, I could not breathe. I could have declined. I could have transferred the project. I could have protected myself. Instead, I accepted. 2 weeks later, I walked into my parents' house for the first time in 5 years. They were hosting an engagement dinner. My mother opened the door. She looked at me politely, then confused, then startled. "Hello," I said calmly. "I'm Claire from Aurora Weddings. I'll be designing Lily's ceremony." She stared. She did not recognize me. Not until I smiled. Her face went pale. The room went silent. My father stood up so quickly his chair fell backward. Lily froze in the middle of pouring wine. No one spoke. I introduced myself professionally to everyone else, shaking hands, commenting on the house, complimenting the flowers. Then I turned to my family and said, very politely, "It's been a long time." They tried to recover. My mother hugged me too tightly. My father kept apologizing for not calling. Lily cried and said she had no idea about the inheritance decision. I said nothing about the past. I talked only about colors, about venues, about timelines. They were nervous. They watched me the entire evening as if I might explode at any moment. But I did not, because I had not come back for revenge. Not yet. Over the next months, I became part of everything. Dress fittings, family dinners, budget meetings, seating chart arguments. They trusted me. They praised me. They told their friends how lucky they were to have such a talented designer. They forgot why I had disappeared. And during every meeting, every call, every planning session, I took notes. Not about flowers. About money. About where the inheritance funds had gone. About which accounts paid, for which venues. About how my grandfather's trust was now financing half of this wedding. Emily's wedding had been beautiful. Lily's was going to be legendary. And the entire family wanted one thing: a perfect public image. They did not realize yet. This wedding was not the celebration. It was the stage. The closer the wedding came, the more the family forgot who I had once been. They spoke freely around me, the way people do when they believe you are useful, but invisible. My mother complained about how expensive everything had become, how lucky we were that my grandfather had left enough money for everyone, how thoughtful my aunt had been to manage the trust so efficiently after his death. Every time she said those words, I wrote another note. I learned the structure of the trust. I learned which lawyer had drafted the documents. I learned how the assets had been reassigned to Emily first, then quietly distributed again when Lily's wedding budget exploded. They were not just excluding me. They were spending my inheritance. And they were careless about it. One evening after a long venue walkthrough, my aunt asked me to stay behind. She poured 2 glasses of wine and sat across from me, studying my face as if trying to reconcile the woman in front of her with the niece she had once dismissed. "You've done very well for yourself," she said. "We were surprised when we heard." I smiled politely. She leaned closer and lowered her voice. "About the trust," she said. "I hope there are no hard feelings. We really thought you would not mind. Weddings are expensive, and Emily and Lily both needed help." I asked her one calm question. Did my grandfather ever say I should be excluded? She waved her hand dismissively. He trusted us to decide what was best. That was the moment I knew. There had been no instruction. No suggestion. Just convenience. Later that night, alone in my hotel room, I opened my laptop and compared the trust distribution records I had quietly obtained with the invoices I was managing. The numbers matched too well. Venue deposits, designer gowns, private flights, all paid from an account that once carried my name. I contacted a lawyer the next morning. Not the family's lawyer, a specialist in estate litigation. I did not tell him a story. I showed him spreadsheets, transaction histories, trust amendments dated after my grandfather's death, but signed by only one trustee. He was quiet for a long time. Then he said something that made my hands shake. They cannot legally do this. He explained that any redistribution required unanimous consent of all beneficiaries or explicit authorization in the will. Neither existed. What they had done was not favoritism. It was theft. We prepared carefully. No confrontations. No warnings. We filed a confidential claim with the probate court 2 weeks before the wedding. Quiet enough not to alert the family. Strong enough to freeze the trust. The first sign something was wrong came when the florist called in a panic. The final payment had been rejected. Then the venue called. Then the caterer. Within hours, my phone exploded. My mother, my aunt, my sister. They demanded explanations. They accused vendors of incompetence. They blamed banks. They blamed each other. That evening, my father called me into the living room. The entire family was there. Tense. Pale. Frightened. My aunt held a letter from the court in shaking hands. She looked at me slowly. "You did this," she whispered. I met her eyes. Yes. Silence crashed into the room. Lily started crying. My mother asked how I could ruin my own sister's wedding. I did not raise my voice. I told them the truth. That the trust had been frozen because someone had illegally transferred my inheritance. That the court now required a full audit. That until it was resolved, no funds could be used. My aunt collapsed into a chair. My father started shouting. My mother begged me to stop. I said one final sentence that made everything go still. "This wedding was paid for with money you stole from me." No one spoke after that, because for the first time in years, they had no story to tell. The night after everything collapsed, I did not go home. I walked through the empty streets near the hotel until my feet hurt and my thoughts finally slowed enough to make sense of what I had done. I had not come back to destroy them. But truth does not ask permission before it changes lives. The next morning, the wedding venue officially suspended the reservation. The dress boutique refused to release the gown. The band canceled. Every vendor wanted confirmation that payment would be restored. It would not be. The trust was frozen by court order. By noon, the entire extended family knew. My phone rang constantly. Uncles asking if this was some mistake. Cousins begging me to reconsider. Friends of the family sending messages about forgiveness and unity and not ruining something so beautiful. Not one message asked if I had been hurt, only if I would stop. The hearing was scheduled 3 days later. My aunt tried to settle quietly. She offered to return part of the money. Not all of it. She said the rest had already been spent. I refused. I wanted the truth documented. In court. Under oath. The courtroom was small and almost empty. No reporters. No audience. Just the judge, the lawyers, and my family sitting in a single row that looked suddenly very fragile. The evidence spoke for me. The trust documents. The unauthorized amendments. The transfers. The invoices. The payments that matched wedding deposits line by line. My aunt tried to explain. She said she had only wanted fairness. She said I was independent and successful and did not need it. The judge asked her one simple question. Did you have legal authority to remove her as a beneficiary? She said no. The ruling came quickly. The transfers were declared invalid. My inheritance was restored in full. My aunt was ordered to repay the missing amount personally. The trust administrator was removed. An investigation was opened into financial misconduct. When we left the courtroom, my mother followed me into the hallway. She was crying quietly, the way she used to when she wanted comfort without confrontation. I never meant for this to happen, she said. I believed her, and that made it worse. I just wanted everyone to be happy. I told her something I had learned too late. Happiness built on erasing someone else never lasts. The wedding was canceled. officially blamed on family matters. Emily and Lily stopped speaking to each other. My aunt sold one of her properties to repay the court. The family stopped hosting large celebrations. They stopped posting smiling photos. And slowly, very quietly, they stopped pretending I did not exist. Weeks later, Lily came to see me alone.
No anger, no accusations.
Just exhaustion. She said she had not known. I told her I believed her. We sat in silence for a long time. Then she said something I will never forget. I always thought you left because you failed. I smiled gently. I left because I refused to disappear. I returned to my firm. I finished the season's weddings. I built my own studio a year later. And when my first major client asked about my family, I answered honestly. I design weddings now because I learned early who does not deserve to be invited. The next invitation I received was my own. A small ceremony. Close friends.
No relatives, no gold lettering.
Just one simple line on the card. For the woman who finally chose herself. And for the first time in my life, I felt truly celebrated.